Hello and welcome to Geology, a channel dedicated to making concepts in biology simple, easy to understand, and interesting. And as promised, I'm back again with yet another live session where we are going to revise the chapter Circulatory System. So let's begin. For the benefit of those who do not know me or who are new to this session, let me quickly introduce myself. I am a learning and development professional. I have about 2 decades of experience, both as an academician and an HR. I have had the privilege of having 2 ranks in the universities when I was doing my graduation and master's. I did my graduation from Bhavans College in Mumbai, and I hold a university rank, second rank, and I hold a university 4th rank when I was doing my MSc from Ethiraj College in Chennai. I am also a certified lecturer from the UGC CSIR NET, which I qualified in my first attempt, and I have been a school and a city topper when I wrote my 10th standard board exams. As an academician, I conduct sessions for students, and as an HR, I do conduct sessions for working professionals. I have taken a lot more than few biology lectures, a lot of doubt clearing sessions for students right from standard 8 up to standard 12th, and also those who have been attempting to write their medical entrance exams. I have created the study material for 2 organizations. I was also on the panel of one organization for correcting the answer sheets for practice papers for the medical entrance exams. And now I have started my YouTube channel where I'm interacting with all of you. I also do take home tuitions as well. But all of this is actually not to boast about myself, but to tell you that you are in safe hands. The tips and practices that I'm sharing are tried and tested, and they have yielded results, and not with anybody, of course with others as well, but certainly for myself, and the results are in front of you. So without any more talk, let me proceed. And while I'm going to take out the contents, can I request you to please give in a line of introduction about yourselves in the chat? Great. So, right, let's begin. So, the circulatory system basically comprises of certain organs and parts which we are going to see, like the human heart, the blood vessels, like arteries, veins, capillaries. We are also going to look at blood, and then the lymphatic system as well. And then we have the double circulatory system, which we should also know, and we will be talking about that as well. Yeah. So first things first, what is circulatory system? I'm sure all of you know what is circulatory system, but why I'm still asking you to read this definition, or I'm going to read out the definition, is because most of the times when students answer a question, they have a habit of starting the answer abruptly, and hence while writing exams also they write the answer abruptly, meaning that they would just start as, is a body system that is responsible for circulating blood, because the question has, what is circulatory system? So what I would insist upon you as a student who is preparing for an exam is that when you're writing the answer, write the entire statement starting from the beginning. So when you have to answer what is circulatory system, start with saying that circulatory system is the body system that is responsible for circulating blood, oxygen, and other essential substances throughout the body. Right? So it comprises of the heart, the blood vessels, veins, arteries, capillaries, etc. Yeah. Now let's start with the heart. When the human heart is, we all know it's a fist size organ. It's not actually located in the left side, but it is tilted to the left. You can see that there is a slight tilt here, which is to the left, and because of which you can see the, heart, you feel that the heart is towards the left, and it supplies blood to the entire body. This particular diagram of heart is something which I find to be a very neat and very clear diagram, and whenever I have been teaching about heart, or whenever I have written about heart in various exams or in any other literature, I have preferred to use this diagram. It not only gives the 4 chambers very clearly, but also the flow of blood is given very, very clearly, which is from where is it coming in, where is it going, how is it going out, and so on. So if possible, do take a screenshot of this diagram and then practice this as your diagram, because it's very, very clear. I have seen most of the books, including the textbooks which are prescribed, have a heart diagram which is a little difficult to replicate, especially on paper. So I would suggest that you take this diagram, and while I'm going to now explain you about heart, I am going to use this diagram and keep explaining you. Yeah. Before going further, there's a thumb rule that I would like you to always, always, always remember. Wherever there are arteries, the function of the artery is to carry blood away from the heart. It's not only for the circulatory system, but any other system also. Arteries carry the blood away from the heart. So how to remember it? Maybe arteries start with A and away starts with A, and it's away from heart, not from the organ. So arteries carry the blood away from the heart towards the organ, whereas veins carry blood to the heart from the organs. Okay, so if you find a renal artery, then the renal artery is actually bringing in oxygenated blood to the kidneys, and the renal vein is carrying the blood away from the kidneys to the heart. Clear? Similarly, pulmonary artery takes the blood away from the heart to the lungs, and pulmonary veins bring the blood from the lungs to the heart. Right. Now let's see this. So heart consists of 4 chambers. The right is the right atrium on the top, the right ventricle below, the left atrium on the top, and the left ventricle below. And so the right atrium receives the blood from the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava. The superior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body, that is the portion of the body which is above the heart, and like your head, your neck, and so on. And inferior vena cava brings the blood from all the organs which are below the heart, meaning in the body system they are at the lower organs. So the right atrium receives all the deoxygenated blood, and then it is under low pressure because this blood comes through the veins. The right atrium contracts and then pushes the blood to the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. Then from the right ventricle contracts and it sends the blood to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. You can see that the arrows from the right ventricle going towards pulmonary artery. At the pulmonary artery, there would be a gaseous exchange at the alveoli, and then the deoxygenated blood would lose the carbon dioxide and get enriched with oxygen, and it will come back to the heart via the pulmonary vein. One point to note here is pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein are the only two blood vessels which carry the other type of blood, meaning like arteries always carry oxygenated blood except for pulmonary artery, which is the only one which carries deoxygenated blood, and that is because it is carrying blood away from the heart towards the lung for getting oxygenated. Pulmonary vein similarly is bringing fresh blood, oxygenated blood, oxygen-rich blood to the heart. But generally, apart from pulmonary veins, all other veins in the body carry only deoxygenated blood. Because when they bring the blood from the different organs towards the heart, they carry deoxygenated blood. Okay. So now the pulmonary vein has brought the fresh blood into the left atrium. The left atrium now contracts and it sends the blood to the left ventricle. So the left atrium, when it receives the blood, it is high in oxygen. It's highly concentrated with oxygen. It is an oxygenated blood, and it is still under low pressure. But when it reaches the left ventricle, now the left ventricle is a very muscular structure. You can see here that this purple line, which is the muscular wall of the heart, is very thick near the left ventricle. You can see that the heart is surrounded by a muscular wall, and the outer layer of which is known as the pericardium. The muscular wall near the left ventricle is quite broad. So this gives left ventricle the power to contract and push the blood so hard through the aorta so that it reaches to all other parts of the body. So that is why it is essential that the left ventricle has a thick muscular wall which helps to push the blood through the aorta. Aorta is the artery which carries the oxygenated blood to the other parts of the body. So the right side of the heart carries deoxygenated blood, both right atrium and right ventricle. And the left side of the heart, that is both left atrium and left ventricle, carry oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood is reddish in color, whereas deoxygenated blood is bluish in color, which is why your veins appear to be blue, whereas the arteries appear to be red. Now, if you are finding it difficult to remember the flow of blood through the heart and the arteries and veins, despite the fact that, we have seen the thumb rule and we should be clear about the function of the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein. But if you still get confused whether the upper one is atrium or the lower one is ventricle or which is what, there is a trick or a way to easily remember this. From the body tissues, it is the veins, that is the vena cava, V, which takes the blood, goes to atrium, which is again starts with A. From the right atrium, it goes to right ventricle, which is starting with V. And from the right ventricle, it goes to pulmonary arteries, which is again starting with A. So VA, and it reaches the lungs. Again, while starting from lungs, it starts with V, VA. Pulmonary veins reaches left atrium, reaches left ventricle, reaches aorta, and then goes to the blood tissues. So if you remember this cycle and this VA, I'm sure you will not make any mistakes in which chamber is on top, which chamber is below, and which chamber is receiving the blood from which one, and which artery and which vein is receiving the blood. Right? Do you have any questions so far? Yeah. Fine. If you do not have any questions, then let's proceed further. Yeah. So now let us look at the structure of the different vessels, the blood vessels which are related to the heart. So we have seen pulmonary artery, which I'm actually repeating the same information again, whatever we just said now regarding the flow, but it's presented in a different format. So the more different ways in which you see the same information, the more clearer it gets into your mind. And you do not know, for some people some way clicks, for the others the other clicks. And each of these slides, though will have the same content, because essentially the blood flows in the same way across the heart, but it is from a different perspective. In the previous slide, we were talking about the chambers of heart in this one, whereas now we are going to look at the different blood vessels. So the pulmonary artery is the one which carries deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle. It takes it to the lungs, and it is the deoxygenated blood which goes to the lungs. The next other blood vessel is the important one, is the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein receives oxygenated blood from the lungs and brings it to the left atrium. So it carries the blood back to the heart. Aorta is the one which carries oxygenated blood. It is an artery, and it carries the blood from the left ventricle and it takes it to the whole body, and it takes it at a very high pressure. So the aorta splits into smaller arteries, which in turn goes to different organs. Then you have the vena cava, the superior and the inferior vena cava, which carry deoxygenated blood, and they carry the blood from the whole body to the right atrium, and the blood flows in them in a low pressure. The one new thing which we are seeing in this slide is the coronary arteries. The coronary arteries I have highlighted in this red circle. The coronary arteries are the arteries of the heart. Okay, the difference is all the other arteries and veins are carrying the blood of the body and getting that blood circulated, carrying the oxygenated blood for deoxygenated blood for oxygenation, and oxygenated blood to the different parts, and so on. But what about the heart? The heart also needs oxygen, isn't it? So it also needs arteries which will carry the oxygenated blood to it for its own functions. So it's just like if you imagine a cashier in a bank, he is handling so much of money. So just like that, the heart also handles so much of blood. But is the money actually the cashier's? No, it's not. It's not his money. Same way, all the blood that the heart is, handling and dealing and pumping, even though it is oxygenated, the heart is not able to use that oxygen for itself. So just like how the cashier would have his own purse and where he receives his own salary, and that is his own money for his usage, same way the heart also has coronary arteries which bring oxygenated blood, and it supplies to the heart for its own purpose, for its own usage. So that is the coronary artery. You should not get confused with the pulmonary arteries. Right? I hope I'm clear. If there are questions, you may please ask them. Yeah. Right. Okay. The next thumb rule. We are now next going to look at the different valves present inside the heart. The thumb rule pertaining to the valves is the valves always prevent the backflow of blood. So the function of the valve, if the blood is flowing this way, it will prevent the blood to flow back. If the blood is flowing this way, it will prevent the blood to flow back. If the blood is flowing this way, it will prevent the blood to flow back. So valves always promote the forward movement of the blood and it prevents the backflow of the blood. That's the main function of the valves. Now, what are the different valves present in the heart? The tricuspid valve. It is the valve which is present between the right atrium and the right ventricle. So, the tricuspid valve is the first one here. And it is a type of an atrioventricular valve because it is present between an atrium and a ventricle. And it prevents the backflow of blood into the right atrium from the right ventricle. Then you have the bicuspid valve or the mitral valve. The bicuspid valve is present between the left atrium and the left ventricle. This is also an atrioventricular valve and it prevents the backflow of blood into the left atrium. Then you have the pulmonary valve. Pulmonary valve is a type of a semilunar valve and it is present between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery. It prevents the flow of blood backwards from the artery into the right ventricle. And then lastly, you have the aortic valve. The aortic valve is present between the left ventricle and aorta. This is also a semilunar valve and it prevents the backflow of blood into the left ventricle. Right? Now, what do you mean by the semilunar valve, tricuspid valve, bicuspid valve, and what is all that? Now, if you observe that this aortic valve and the pulmonary valve, they are like this. They are moon shaped. They are like half moon or crescent moon shape, which is why they are known as semilunar valves because they have half moon shaped flaps. Both aortic valve as well as pulmonary valves have this kind of a C-shaped or a half moon shaped flap. Now, tricuspid valve, you can see here tricuspid and mitral valve is known as bicuspid. Bi means 2 and tri means 3. So, tricuspid valve has 3 flaps and bicuspid valve has 2 flaps and hence the names. Right? Clear about the valves? Clear, Hasini? Yeah. Now, moving on to muscles of the heart. Now, heart we say is a muscular organ. So, it is made up of muscles. And the muscles of the heart are known as cardiac muscles. So the muscle tissue which forms the heart is the cardiac muscles and the cardiac muscles help to pump the blood around the body. And this muscular tissue is present on the walls of the heart. Now, how does heart beat throughout life? Why does it not get tired? That is because the cardiac muscle of which the heart, the walls of the heart is made of, is myogenic. Myogenic muscles are those which do not get tired and hence the heart is able to beat throughout life. And then why is it that the left ventricle has thick walls? That is because the left ventricle has to pump hard so that it's able to push the blood out through the aorta to all the different parts of the body which are even distantly located. Right? So it needs to generate a high blood pressure and thus for getting that it is thickest and it has the maximum cardiac muscles in it. Right? Okay. Now coming to pacemakers. We know that the heart keeps beating. This beat is in a rhythmic manner. Now, this rhythm of the this rhythmic beating of the heart, say about 70 beats per minute, is controlled by a natural pacemaker which is inbuilt in our hearts. This natural pacemaker is known as SAN, or sinoatrial node. It is present in the right atrium. Somewhere in the right atrium there are special cells, and these cells, they send electrical nerve impulses which causes the contraction of the heart, and thus the normal rhythm of the heart is maintained. But if the sinoatrial node is not functioning properly, or these cells are not functioning properly, any dysfunction can actually affect the heart rate and the rhythm, and it can become irregular. And in such a scenario, we need to have an external equipment called an artificial pacemaker, which is then inserted in the chest cavity, and that starts sending signals to the heart through the circuits for restoring the normal rhythm. Yeah. Now, if we have to do our heart checkup, how is that done? Normally, the basic one is to check the pulse rate. We know we use fingers and we check the pulse in our wrist, or at other places where we are able to access our blood vessels. And there we, or some here, also the side of the neck, where we check if the number of times the heart is beating, or pulsation is correct, or is it normal. And then the doctors also use stethoscope, where they listen to the lub-dub sound of the heart made by the valves opening and closing. And if there are abnormal sounds, then it's like an alert to check if the valves are all functioning fine. And then you have ECG. ECG is electrocardiogram, and that looks at the electrical activity that is happening in the heart. So there are sensors which are attached. I'm sure all of you, for some reason or the other, maybe for your annual health checkup or for your other interviews, or you might have experienced the echocardiogram process. And even if you have not, then let me tell you that there are sensors which are attached to the various parts of the body with the help of a gel, and then the electric reading at that point is captured, and then ECG reading is taken. So with the help of which we can identify if there are normal or abnormal activities which are happening within the heart. So these are the different ways in which you can monitor the activity of heart. Now, from your perspective as a student, I would suggest that when you are studying not only this heart chapter, but it applies to anywhere where you have diagrams, I would suggest that you draw the diagram on a good A4 size or a bigger sheet on a white paper, and then label the diagram then and there. Instead of, there are times when students mark, say in this place of iota, they would write number 1, and then they write 1 below as an indication, and then they write iota, and so on. So this one is for your own preparation. I would suggest that wherever the structure is, write the name of the structure and write the few main important points next to it, for like the way it is done in this diagram. And then stick this on a visible place. So each time you are, looking at it, you would see the structure, you would see the parts, and you would also see the important points related to the parts. So it becomes like a very ready reckoner, and you would have seen it so many times that it becomes effortless to go into your memory. Alright. Okay. Now coming to double circulation. Now we have seen how blood flows through the heart. So in case of human beings, the blood from the heart goes to the lungs, again comes back to the heart, then goes to the body and comes back to heart. So for that entire 1 full cycle of blood to flow within the body, it needs to touch heart twice. It needs to enter heart twice. So which is why it is known as double circulation. So double circulation is a circulatory system where the blood passes through the heart twice in one complete cycle. So the heart receives deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body. It pumps it to the uh, lungs, where it gets oxygenated, and it is pumped. It is sent back to the heart, where it is again pumped to the different parts of the body by the heart, and thus the blood passes twice through the heart, making one full complete round through the body. So which is why it is known as double circulation. Why is double circulation important? This question is not only interesting and important, but it is also important from the exam point of view, because it's quite often asked questions, irrespective of the boards, whether you are in ICSE or GCSE or CBSE or a matriculation board. This is a very common question. So what is the importance of double circulation? Because there are other animals, for example, fishes or reptiles. Fishes have a two-chambered heart, and then there are reptiles who have three-chambered hearts. So what is the importance of having a four-chambered heart and also having this double circulation? So this is actually important because it separates the oxygenated blood from the deoxygenated blood. So within the human body, the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood do not get mixed. So this increases the efficiency of oxygen transport across the body, and this separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood also helps to maintain a very good metabolic rate, and hence, of course, a better energy production for the body. So that is why double circulation is important, because it separates the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. This oxygenation and deoxygenated blood being separate helps in improving the metabolic rates, and it also increases the efficiency of the oxygen transport mechanism. Clear so far? Awesome. Right. So double circulation thus has two circulations, like we said. One which is your pulmonary circulation, which is through the lungs, so from the heart to the lungs and then back, and then from the heart to the body and back is the systemic. So pulmonary comes from the pulmonary is the lungs. So the circulation which is through back and forth to the lungs is the pulmonary circulation, and the one which is to the other parts of the body or to the different systems of the body is the systemic circulation. You might have seen a lot of diagrams of double circulation, but I would personally advise this one because it's very, very clear. It doesn't need a lot of drawing skills when you're doing it in exams. It's very clear. You can see the right auricle, right ventricle, left ventricle, the septa which is separating the two, and you can see the arrows which shows in which direction the blood is flowing. So it's a very clear diagram of double circulation. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So let's move to the next section, which is the arteries, veins, and capillaries. So like I was saying earlier, the arteries carry fresh oxygenated blood, so the blood is red because the RBCs would have combined with the oxygen, and the hemoglobin would have combined and formed oxyhemoglobin, whereas the veins are bluish in nature, in color, because they are carrying the deoxygenated blood. So the arteries break down into smaller parts which are known as arterioles, and the arterioles further break down into and form the capillaries. And then these capillaries again join together and they form the venules, and the venules finally join and form the veins. Okay. Uh, these three rounds are actually the cross section. When you cut the artery and look at it from the top, this is how the artery, vein, and capillaries would look like. So the artery has thick walls. They are large blood vessels. They carry the blood away from the heart, and they have thick walls. That is because they have to withstand the blood coming in high pressure from the heart. And then since the walls are thick, the lumen or the gap of the see, arteries, veins, capillaries, these are like tubes. So the gap or the hole in the tube, that in case of artery is smaller as compared to the vein. The vein has thinner walls, and hence the lumen is larger. Now, in case of the veins, the blood is flowing at a low pressure. So there is a possibility, and then many a times the veins are carrying the blood from the organ to the heart, which is again against the gravity. So for various multiple reasons, like being low in pressure or the effect of gravity, the blood tends to flow backwards. To prevent that backflow of the blood, the veins have valves. Yeah, we saw that the valves were present in the heart. Similarly, in the veins also, you can see the flaps or the valves. And veins in turn break down into venules, which are smaller veins, and then the venules connect to the capillary bed. Now, when it comes to capillaries, these are like very, very thin blood vessels which are present across all the organs, within the organs, and they help in exchange of materials, whether it is food materials or whether it is gaseous exchange. All of that happens through the capillaries. And so capillaries have to be very, very thin. Only then diffusion and osmosis can take place. Capillaries also do not contain valves. Yeah. Okay. I'm just seeing if there are any comments from anybody. Okay. Right. So the points of difference between arteries, veins, and capillaries. Functionally, artery transports blood away from the heart to the organs, and veins transport the blood from the organs to the heart. Capillaries, they carry blood to organs wherever gaseous exchange or food material exchange is required. Then the walls of the artery is thick, walls of the vein is thin, and when it comes to capillaries, they have very thin walls. Okay. Then when it comes to elasticity, now the walls of the artery are highly elastic, because we said, right, they are thick walls, and that is where we can feel in the arteries is where we feel the pulsation. So the walls of the arteries are elastic, whereas in the veins it is less elastic, and the capillaries are absolutely inelastic. The size of the lumen is narrow. In case of an artery, it's quite large in case of veins, and it is very, very narrow in case of a capillary. Arteries do not have valves, capillaries do not have valves. It is only the veins which has the valves. VV. Yeah, and blood pressure generally becomes is high in case of arteries, and it's very low for the vein, and It is kind of low when it comes to the capillaries. Okay. Now let's come to the fluid connective tissue, which is the blood. Now, blood comprises of plasma, which is the yellowish liquid, yellow whitish liquid of the blood. And apart from plasma, blood contains white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. So, white blood cells protect us against infections and various foreign materials, because a few of them they engulf the foreign material and then they take it, and um, then some of them are also involved in the immune system, like the B cells and the T cells. And then the red blood cells are unique because they do not have nucleus. Instead, the space is used for carrying oxygen, and it is sickle shaped in sickle shaped. The shape of the red blood cell is like like a bowl, and yeah, sickle cell. Sorry, I'll take the sickle cell back, because there's also a pathological condition called sickle cell anemia. So let's not use sickle cells, but red blood cells generally they have a concave surface because they do not have the nucleus, and thus it has a bowl-like appearance. And then there are platelets which are involved in the blood clotting, so it prevents bleeding. And these white blood cells also have lymphocytes. They have eosinophils, basophils, leukocytes. So lymphocytes are a type of blood cells which includes both the B and T cells, which are important in the immune system. So B cells are produced in the bone marrow, and they also mature in the bone marrow, whereas T cells are they mature in the thymus. Plasma cells develop from the B cells. Okay. Now the last one, which is the lymphatic system. So blood and lymph are the two fluids within the body. Now blood has plasma, and it has got these cells within it, which are like the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. When it comes to lymphatic system, it is formed of again a fluid which is called lymph, and the system as such is formed of tiny tubes which are known as lymph vessels and lymph nodes. And so lymph capillaries, lymph vessels, lymph nodes, and lymph are the four parts of the lymphatic system. Now, lymph is a light yellow liquid which is very similar to plasma, but lymph can also contains digested food, it contains germs, it contains digested fat, and it also contains the fragments of dead cells, and also large protein molecules which comes from it into it from the tissue fluids between the cells. Now, lymph seeps into the lymph capillaries. So, lymph is formed in the intercellular spaces. In the intercellular spaces, between the cells there are spaces, right? So, which are filled with tissue fluids, and from these tissue fluids is what the lymph comes out, and then it seeps into the lymph capillaries. This is again a very neat diagram, which is my personal favorite. So it's from a book. I have just taken a picture of it and attached for your benefit. So the lymph capillaries are the tiny tubes. You can see it below. These are the very thin, tiny tubes which are like blood capillaries, but the difference is that they have closed ends. Which Whereas in case of blood capillary, on one side it is attached to the arterioles, and on the other side it is attached to the venules. Whereas in case of the lymph capillaries, they are embedded into the tissue. So that's one major difference. And the lymph capillaries also have holes and perforations which are quite big enough, so certain macromolecules or large molecules, like your protein molecules or um, these large molecules can pass through these holes. And then these lymph capillaries, they join together and then they form a lymph vessel. The lymph vessels, you can see going up here, you can see that the lymph vessels have certain glands or nodes which are known as lymph nodes. The lymph nodes contain a specific type of cell which is known as the lymphocyte. And it is with the help of these lymphocytes, the lymph vessel cleans up the lymph and it protects the body from various kinds of diseases. Then the lymph vessels are in turn connected to the large veins which are known as the subclavian veins, which are found here near the just below the collarbone. So the subclavian, these lymph vessels, they drain into the subclavian veins. Okay. See here, from the tissue fluid, starting from the lower part of the diagram, the tissue fluid goes into the lymphatic cavity, then there is a lymph node, and when you still go further, the lymphatic vessel, and that finally goes into the subclavian veins. So lymph always flows in one direction. So it does not, unlike blood goes to the heart, it comes back from the heart to the organs. From the organ, it goes to the heart. From the heart, it comes back to the organ. From the heart, it goes to the lungs, and from the lungs, it comes back. So it's a two-way, bidirectional movement. Whereas when it comes to lymph, it is only unidirectional movement. Lymph always starts from the tissue fluids. The excess fluids goes into it, and then it goes to the lymph node, and then the lymphatic vessel, and then the lymphatic vessels finally go into the subclavian veins. So the functions of the lymphatic system is mainly to balance the fluids in the body. So whenever there is excess fluid in the tissue, that excess fluid moves into the lymph capillaries. So the lymphatic system helps to balance the fluids in the body. Then it protects the body from infection because the lymphatic system produces lymphocytes, which are again useful in the for immunological purposes. And then the third function is transportation, absorption and transportation of digested fat. So from the villi to the bloodstream, it is the lymph nodes, which the lymphatic system, which takes the digested fat from the villi, and then it brings in, sends it to the bloodstream for regular distribution within the body. So I think we are pretty much on time. So we should be closing the session by 8:30. We are at 8:23 now. And that's pretty much what I had to share from the theory perspective. Do you have any questions? Any Q&As? You can write your questions in the chat, and I can take it and I can revert to you. If not, then maybe I'll proceed. But if you still have questions, do feel free to write them into the comment section. And I would request that you subscribe to the channel, you share the videos, what you watch here, you like the videos if you like them actually, and go into the channel, have a look at it. You will find a lot of study material there. You will also find productivity enhancement tools as a student. There are a lot of NCRT in chapter and textbook exercises which are you know solved with the explanation. You will find them in the channel. And then you also have assertion and reasoning questions which are solved and explained. So these are some of the important things that you can find in the channel. Of course, there is a lot more there as well, but these are like the directly useful, beneficial ones for you. And for those of you who would like to join our WhatsApp group, so there is a WhatsApp group also by the same name, Tuvology, and where we communicate within ourselves between different students. We try to exchange information related to biology, basically trying to have a community where there is a lot of synergic uh, you know cooperation between the people to help each one get become stronger in their own subjects. In that group, you can also get your doubts clarified absolutely free of charge. You can post your questions, or you can ask questions directly to me. I normally take a day or two, and then I revert to you when you need answers. So it's a pretty useful group. And that's a group where you also get information about what's the next live session coming and when and so on. You get it first before anybody else. So in case you want to join the WhatsApp group, I am sharing the link here. You can click on the link and you can apply for the for joining the group. So that's it for now. Unless there are any other questions, thank you so much for staying back with me. Right. Do reptiles have three-chambered heart? Yes, they do. Reptiles have three-chambered heart. And there is one chamber where there is a mixing up of the what do you call the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in case of the reptiles. So both amphibians as well as reptiles, they have three-chambered heart. So there are two atria and one ventricle. Unlike us, we have two atria and two ventricles. The reptiles have two atria and one ventricle. Any other doubts? And while telling this, the aquatic animals like fishes, they have a two-chambered heart. So there's only one atrium and one ventricle. Any other questions? We just have one more minute, so I will wait before I call it a day. Do fishes also go through double circulation? No, fishes do not go through double circulation, Harshini, because fishes do not have lungs. They have gills, right? So there is, in the fish, it is known as a single circulation. So the deoxygenated blood returns to the heart to be pumped to the gills. So the flow of blood in the fish is known as a single circulation. It is not double circulation. It passes through the heart only once. Any other question? Thank you, Hasini, for asking your doubts and getting them clarified. Okay. Cool. So it's 8:30, and thank you so much. So we are signing off today, and we'll come back soon with yet another live session revising another topic. So stay tuned until then. Thank you, and good night.